Sure. Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fire ahead.
Listed under the consent calendar or to request an item from the consent calendar be pulled for discussion purposes. Comments related to public hearing and general business items will be heard at the time those items are discussed. In fairness to all who wish to speak, public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes, with each speaker allowed 3 minutes unless otherwise extended by the board. Please begin your comments by stating your name and providing your city of residence. For those who wish to provide public comment while viewing the meeting online, you may call 559-366-1849. Please note that there will be approximately a 20-second delay in broadcast for viewers. When calling in, mute the device used for viewing the meeting. Are there any public comments at this time? Seeing or hearing none, we'll move on to communications. Communications to be submitted to the city manager's office 10 days prior to a board meeting to be considered for this section of the agenda. No action will be taken on matters listed under communications. However, the board may direct staff to schedule issues raised during communication for a future agenda. Mr. City Manager?
No communications.
Thank you. All right, moving on to consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted in one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Is there anyone up here wishing to pull either one of our items on the consent calendar? Hearing none, I'll accept or look for a motion to accept as presented.
Motion to accept.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Consent calendar is accepted. Moving on to general business. Comments related to general business items are limited to 3 minutes per speaker for a maximum of 30 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. For those that wish to provide public comment while viewing the meeting online, you may call 559-366-1849. Please note that there will be approximately a 20-second delay in broadcast for viewers. When calling in, mute the device used for viewing the meeting. Looks like we have. Please note that there will be approximately a 20-second delay in broadcast for viewers. Looks like our first one here is Mr. Doyle.
Push it again. There you go. There's good.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Today's item we have is the approval of funding for the replacement purchase of our CCTV pipeline inspection camera from the Equipment Replacement Fund 623 for fiscal years 2024-2025 in the amount of $25,296. This camera is a very vital piece of equipment that we use. It does inspections of our sewer lines mostly to see if we're winning or losing in our cleaning process. It also checks the condition of the line, especially with clay lines. It looks for cracks, offsets, and so on and so forth. We also use this camera to inspect when we see sinkholes in the middle of the road. In a storm drain system, basically there shouldn't be any water pressure there, but if a water line is leaking, we could go into that storm drain, you know, off peak and rainy season and see if any water is leaking in. So it's good for conservation efforts as well as pipe condition and so on and so forth. This camera, we didn't foresee it breaking down. It's not operable. We can't get it to work correctly to do inspections on city projects, let's say. So we have monies in our equipment replacement fund 623. So we were asking for the board to approve an allocation of the fund from that into equipment replacement to be able to buy this camera.
Did we know ahead of time what the life of that camera would have been or should have been?
Well, the camera is, I think it's was 2017, so that'd be almost 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. So typically electric equipment, I like to think that it's going to last 10. If you get 15, it's great. But nowadays, a lot of your electrical equipment is pretty much outdated or obsolete after 10 years. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast with electronics. And it's a pretty sophisticated piece of equipment because it's got to be able to lower down a manhole, make that turn. And it's not just a camera, it's a tractor that literally drives that thing in and out. It's a very specialized piece of equipment. So Substrate that makes this particular model, it's a plug and play. So you're locked into where you have to buy the same type of equipment. So this equipment at the time when we equipped our CCTV van wasn't as proprietary as some of the other cameras that are out there. You have to buy their program, you're locked in with their computer. So there was a little more flexibility with this. But again, it's proprietary and it's basically sole source type of a piece of equipment.
Looking at the new one that we're looking at to purchase, is there some kind of a life expectancy on that one?
Well,
Have you heard
again, we budget for and try and put money aside in this equipment replacement. One of the cameras, I think we bought a year or two ago, is like $40,000. This one's 25. So we try and make sure that we put aside and fund this replacement account for not only the computer, but the cameras, the cable, and all the other equipment that goes with it.
I'm just trying to picture it. Is it something you take wherever you need to go and view?
It is part of a van. We have like
Okay.
a Chevy van with a big box, and inside that it has a huge reel. Like you've probably seen them when they do wells. It's the same type of concept. It's on a big reel. It's just like a fishing pole, and it just goes down and it has, a
Okay.
few hundred feet of cable, 500 feet of cable. And it's able to drive through and then back. It takes that video image and it puts it on a disc and on our computer that's inside the van. So the van has an operator station with a computer screen. It has operating controls for the winch to go out and back. And it's pretty neat piece of
All right.
equipment.
Any other?
Question. Tim, would it be a true statement to say that this is a significant cost savings by us owning this piece of equipment rather than us constantly contracting out for that service?
Right.
Yeah.
We have this available. We actually charge the contractors when we do the inspection service as part of our deal. So, I mean, yes, you're correct. It's money saved by having this equipment. It allows us, and it's in the consent calendar with our production as far as we try to get about 50% if we can to see if we're winning or losing in our daily preventative maintenance. So it has preventative maintenance benefits for us to make sure that we're being efficient. It works with our engineering department because it allows them to plan for lines that need to be replaced. The clay lines that are broken. I mean, we've looked at some clay lines, they're almost like a leach line. They're so broken up. And that's what helps us planning our capitals for sewer upgrades, water upgrades, and so on and so forth. And then again, to allude back to the storm drain, we can stick it in there to see if we're having any problems with the storm drains. We find a mystery line like at the the shelter campus that we're building, we can go in there and try and see what that line goes to, or it allows us a lot of flexibility having that piece of equipment.
Okay.
And we have 300 and almost 400 miles of line, so it stays busy.
Are these easy to get? I mean, you just
No.
order it and so we have to order it quite a bit in advance.
Yeah, it's an item that can be 6 to 8 to 12 weeks,
Do
depending.
we only have one?
We have one, and then this camera that's failing. What I try and do with all pieces of equipment, when I replace them, it's if I can get benefit out of that other one as far as parts, or we're gonna set it in to see if it can be rebuilt. Because it has a gas in there to allow it to be able to see in those harsh conditions. And this one's leaking and it's not rotating. So if they can put that back together, because it's not as old as you would think, 7 years, you're hoping that maybe in the next couple few years, we should be able to rebuild this thing. Then we would have a redundant piece that allows it, because it is kind of an investment. We can't just buy 2 cameras. So we buy one, we get the best use out of it. Now we're at a point where we need to replace it, but we're going to utilize our existing piece as much as possible.
Do
That's right.
you, I mean, are you using these every day?
We use them as much as possible,
I mean,
not
is
every day.
Yeah,
it's-
so if you did have one that it didn't work and we only have one,
Then
then you're renting them? Is that what you have to do
we
at
would
that
have to
point?
sub it out.
Oh, okay,
We would have to find a company that can come in and do that.
okay.
So I mean, it's not only helping us, but it does construction work. We do inspections with it
Okay.
with new development. So I mean, it works. And we've had a delay passing inspections when we've had it broke down before.
Yeah, okay.
So it
Thank
is
you.
vital. Just get on top of this.
Good to know. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept item 6.1 from the general business.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You. Ms. Whitfield.
Good afternoon, Board. This item is requesting that the board approve the purchase of an injector Venturi scrubber to shoot and cording in the amount of $97,000 with a 15% contingency for any design changes and the cost of shipping. So as the board will recall, in August of 2023, you approved a contract with Synagro to clean the bulk volume fermenter, the BVF. That ended up being quite a project. I think somewhere around 5 million once it was all said and done. And we completed that in March of 2024. So since that project was complete, we did put the BVF back into production. And it has been producing gas, and the fuel cells obviously continued to run. We did realize in July, as we were ramping up gas production, that the H2S, which is essentially like a sulfur, the H2S coming from the BVF was high. So our contract with Fuel Cell, the digester gas purchase agreement, the DGPA as we call it, had a very, very low mark for the H2S. It was 140 parts per million. The BVF in July, when Fuel Cell realized it was a problem, was somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 ppm, so quite a bit higher. So Fuel Cell was concerned because they did replace their stacks while the BVF was down. So they've got new stacks, and they were concerned about their equipment because the sulfur can really damage it. And the way the scrubbers, there are scrubbers that clean that sulfur before it gets to the fuel cell. And so they were working, but we were going through like the material in the scrubbers faster than anticipated. So they had to clean the snowflakes, and they had to replace, I can't remember what the product is, they had to replace the material in the other scrubbers. And so the high H2S was causing the scrubbers to work harder, and it was going through their media faster. So Fuel Cell shut the fuel cell down in July because they were concerned about their new fuel cell, which was millions of dollars. So we've been working since then to try to get the H2S down. In October, Mike Allison with ADI Systems, and they've been on contract with the city for a very, very long time. I don't know if it was since the beginning of the BVF, but quite a bit of the life of the BVF. So we've had them on contract for a long time, and they come out annually and take a look. They helped us before the project, and so we had them come out after the project. So Mike Allison spent a few days at the plant and he looked at everything. So I guess the good news is that the H2S coming into the plant is normal. It's not really that high, and it's very normal given the constituents that come into our plant. So, there's not anything going on out in the system that is something that we can't control. It's a very normal amount. What he thinks was happening is that big solids layer that we had built up in the BVF was acting as a natural scrubber because it was kind of sitting at the top. And so he really believes it was acting as a natural scrubber, and it was bringing that H2S down before it got to the fuel cells and to the scrubbers. And so, we were averaging, I think, somewhere between 3, maybe 500 prior to the BVF being taken down. So it was bringing it down quite a bit. So Mike did an analysis, and he made a few recommendations. Obviously, we couldn't do anything. We can't really do anything about the H2S coming in, and it's not that high. So one of his first recommendations was to bring our pH up. And he said if we can bring it up by, I think, like 0.5, we should be able to bring the H2S down by 35%. So we actually have been treating the BVF, and we've already brought the pH, bringing the pH up has brought our H2S down. So now we're ranging between 1,500 and 1,800. So we're starting to get it down. But it's limited. We can only, we find that right pH range, it'll only bring it down a certain amount. The other thing he recommended is we have one of the mixers that was in the BVF prior to the project, and we need to reinstall it. So we're working on that now. But really, Mike didn't think there was a whole lot we could do besides adding an additional scrubber. And so, we've looked at everything that we can. Nathan, who is our maintenance supervisor, who's in the audience, has worked really hard the last few months. He's called probably every company out there. We called the company that built the prior scrubbers. And so we've had a lot of people out here. So what we have settled on is this system. So essentially this scrubber will be, so you have the BVF, and you're going to have this scrubber, and then you're going to have the fuel cell scrubbers. And so what this scrubber will do is it will bring the H2S down to a point where fuel cell can safely take it, continue to scrub it and get it down to the concentrate that will work for the fuel cell and not potentially damage it. And so this is kind of a good thing. It helps us long term. So if we clean the BVF and we have this issue again, we really won't, because we'll have our scrubbers. And so it won't become an issue. And so we feel very confident, and the engineers that Nathan has been working with feel very confident that these scrubbers will bring that H2S down to about 95% of what it is. Okay. So we will definitely meet the requirements. Fuel Cell has taken a look with this, and Nathan's also worked with their engineers, and they are on board with this. So if you see the quote, it says 90,000. It was plus or minus 10,000, because they will do a final engineering once we give them the go ahead. So there is a little bit of room that the quote may change once they do their final engineering. So they do a basic engineering to give us the quote, the plus or minus 10,000. They have done a little bit more, and it's at 92,000, and we are still waiting on the shipping fee. And so that's why I increased the contingency by 15% just to cover those two costs. But what will happen at this point, if the board approves this, is we will place the order tomorrow. I already told Nathan I want to get this in. It is a 16 to 18 week lead time, which means we won't get it until about April or May. We are working with Fuel Cell because we are ordering this. They are willing to bring the fuel cell back online. They are actually replacing some of their equipment right now. Once they're done replacing their equipment towards the end of January, we are going to get the fuel cell back up and running. Like I said, we've already dropped the H2S down to 1,500, so it's a lot better. And they're willing to run the equipment. And so we're going to run it in the short term while this is on order. So it's good news. We're going to get back up and running fully. Do remember that we sell this gas to Fuel Cell. So the revenues per month, if we're producing, the minimum amount is around 75,000 a month. And so we are tracking the gas that we're producing. We're still producing gas at the BVF. And so if you drive by the plant, you can see the flare. And so we're producing well over our minimum quantity. So we're confident once we get back up and running, we actually may be selling in excess and that we will be making more than the 75,000 minimum a month. So kind of a small hiccup, something no one anticipated. Even Mike Allison, when he came out, he's like, this is a new one, but this is what we think was happening. So if the board has any questions, I've got Brantley Bath, our wastewater plant manager, and Nathan Daughtry, our maintenance supervisor, if you have any questions.
You said the revenue generated is what, 75,000 a month?
Yeah, it's between 74 and 76. So it's based on the number of days per month.
Okay.
So
I just need clarification on the word caustic. You have that in here. I didn't really understand. It said,
Brantley
staff
can probably better explain.
started closing the BVF with caustic a few weeks. So I just don't know what that means.
Good afternoon, board members. Yes, so caustic is basically a chemical solution which helps increase the pH of the wastewater.
Oh.
And what they found in certain studies that if you increase the pH, it also reduces the sulfide concentration in the water, which helps reduce the H2S in the gas.
Yeah, that's kind of what you explained already. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that's what caustic means. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So since this has been down, we have not been generating that amount of revenue?
Correct.
Okay. And that's been since when?
Middle of July.
Okay.
Wow.
Fuel Cell took their equipment down beginning of December. So,
So it could be a total of maybe a year before.
well, no, because we're going to get back up and running in January, sorry.
Oh,
When
okay.
Fuel Cell gets their, they've got a large water pump that they
Okay.
have removed and they're rebuilding. And so right now, the down is on Fuel Cell, not on us. So it is their responsibility. So
Okay.
they plan to get that hopefully back the end of January, and we're going to get the Fuel Cell back up and running. And so
Okay.
6 months downtime.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working with them. We have meetings every week, so we're all trying as hard as we can to get this fuel cell back up. So definitely by February, we'll be back up and running.
Just curious, life expectancy?
Of the scrubbers, oh gosh, I think they've got a pretty good life expectancy. The existing ones out there were probably since the installation of the BVF. It's because it's the media inside of it. So as long as you're maintaining the media, it's kind of like our TCP carbon filters that we have at the water sites. Those vessels have a long life expectancy. It's the media inside that you change. So it's more, operating costs, but the actual equipment has a long life expectancy.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I think it's something we need to get done, I would
Yeah,
think.
no doubt.
Okay. I will go ahead and make a motion to accept the journal business item 6.2 as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to items of interest. Ms. Whitfield.
I thank the board for meeting today. I was hoping to cancel it partially because Melissa was gone and I didn't want to have Diana clerk this meeting, but it ended up that we had 2 purchases that we wanted to get done before the end of the year. So we do thank you for that. We are planning on canceling the January 2nd one. So don't worry, you won't get a last minute email that we're going to have that meeting. So just thank the board for a great year. We're making some very good progress. If you recall, a couple meetings ago, you awarded the wastewater facilities plan and the reuse plan to Corollo. So, kind of as our next step from the master plans that we did, and we have hit the ground running. So I met with Corollo and Tulare Irrigation District, Aaron Fukuda, and we started to talk about the reuse plan. And the 2 people on from Corollo that had not met Aaron before at the end of the meeting were like, wow. He just blows your mind, his knowledge and, understanding of our system. So he's got ideas too already, just from his years of work with us. So we've started the reuse plan. We actually have a meeting scheduled with the state the middle of January. So Corolla is going to start to kind of approach the board and see what some of our options are. So that one's moving. And then the facilities plan is moving fast and furious. They were out yesterday, did a tour of the plant, but they've already been asking for data and information from plant staff. So I'm really excited. Corolla's got, they've got a history with us, but they've got some really smart people, some good engineers that understand wastewater working on our projects. So thank the board for that support. So we're gonna have some big stuff happening next year. And then just the last thing, solid waste operations, your trash days are normal this year because Christmas and New Year's Day fall on Wednesday. So your days of service are the same. So with that, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Melanie?
I don't have anything special to report, but I would like to wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year. I hope you all have safe and prosperous times. Thanks.
Michael?
So last Thursday, we had the groundbreaking for the Tulare Homeless Shelter, right in the midst of the heaviest rain. Freezing cold, yes, but it was a joyous occasion nonetheless. So that brings us up to 7 significant projects currently under construction. So the project side is staying very busy with multiple others in the design phase. We also have a lot of development projects coming through the city, a lot of subdivision activity. So yeah, it's good times.
Renee? Mike? Tony?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Mark?
Nothing for me.
Nothing? Well, I don't have much of anything. Sorry for the mix-up last week, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Guess you forgot, huh?
Let it be noted, it was my fault. I didn't say our president was missing last week. I'll take the blame, get it recorded,
Well, I did.
because he was out playing golf
Hey,
and he didn't put us above the golf game.
well, that's not exactly right, but that's okay. I was out of town, okay? But you knew that.
Huh?
You knew that.
I figured it out.
Yeah. And I even told Melissa too, twice. Anyway, I do want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Have a safe time with your family and friends, and just hope everything goes well for you. All right, thank you. This time we stand adjourned.